purpose of this space is to create a very safe environment for people to share a moment of their lives. All of the stories presented by the speakers are personal in nature, and some of them can encroach on dark topics as addiction, abuse, self-harm, and you may be triggered by this. And if you are triggered by it, there's a beautiful lounge in the back. You can go there, give yourself a timeout, ground yourself, and then when you're ready, you can come back and join us.
Centrally located in the Richmond Auto Mall since 1984, Richmond Honda features a large selection of Honda certified pre-owned vehicles. Inside the showroom, Honda's newest models are displayed for viewing, and the dealership is staffed 7 days a week for financial consultation. Foodie World presents Philippine Street, featuring a large selection of Filipino foods, from imported non-perishable products to both packaged seafood and locally caught and very much alive. Foodie World is 75,000 square feet of worldly groceries situated in North Richmond. Located 1 block north of St. Paul's Hospital, Downtown Denture Center features complete and partial teeth restoration options. With 35 years experience, Anthony Chung offers mobile services and emergency repair consultation 24 hours a day. Downtown Denture Center, just off Nelson at 970 Burrard in the lobby of the Electra Building. Open 7 days a week, Kingsgate Mall features shops for both men's and women's clothing, women's fashions and accessories, and footwear for everyone, prescription glasses and contact lenses, as well as shopping for his and her jewelry. Kingsgate Mall on East Broadway at Kingsway.
Matatagpuan sa 104 and 138 na may higit sa 300 sasakyan, brand new and pre-owned, ay pwede niyong pagpipilian. Bago ka pa sa bansa, wala ka bang credit score? Walang problema. Marami kaming selection from all makes and models, and all trade-ins are welcome. Higit pang impormasyon sa sirmitsubishi.com.
Welcome to the show, and I'm going to open by sharing with you an answer that I gave to people that found out about the show and then applied to speak. A lot of them say, what do you want us to talk about? And I tell them, well, I want to know the why behind your why. And they go, what does that mean? Like, well, most people say, you're doing something and this is this is why you do it. Well, I want to know what caused that why to happen. And then I was finally asked, after saying that hundreds of times, then what's your why behind your why? And then they caught me off guard because I never really thought of it. So I actually I pondered this, sat in front of this person for 10 minutes in silence, trying to think about this. And then I gave them the answer. And then a couple of days later, I met up with another gentleman, and he asked me exactly the same question. And then I refined it a little bit. And when someone else asked me, I'm going, this is a test from someone up top that I really gotta get this answer down. And it goes something like this. A few years ago, more than a few is what, 3? Okay, many years ago, I was in a pretty dark space in the sense that I was going to work for the sake of working, for chasing after the almighty dollar. And then on weekends, just numbing myself with alcohol and substance abuse to survive all the pressure that I put upon myself. And it was a really dark space, and I didn't know how to get out, because why would I want to get out? So all I did was just aim down. I went further and further down the rabbit hole. Then about 5 years ago, in the world that I was in, to give you a better frame, it was like the nightlife and entertainment industry. So you're just going out and you're partying, and people are putting on these beautiful masks to hide all of the pain that they're behind, and we're numbing ourselves just to survive. Now, if you can call that an existence, when I told the story the first time, I said I was existing. When I told the story the second time, I realized what I was doing was escaping. I didn't want to deal with anything. I was just sitting there numbing myself and then going further and further down the rabbit hole because I truly believed no one would understand, no one cared, and I just got used to it. At the beginning, there was a lot of pain, and then as time went on, I just got used to it. Then about 5 years ago, a friend of mine posted up on Facebook, and I looked at her and I go, wow, you look really happy. And asked her what happened, and she got out. She got out of hell. And I was very curious, and I go, well, can you tell me what you did? And she gave me her story. And at that very moment, I realized if she could get out, I might be able to get out too. And then I asked her, so what did you do? And then we really had this heart-to-heart. And it was heart-wrenching hearing what she had to go through. But she wanted out. And at that point in time, I decided I wanted out too. So she gave me, in the dark hell that I was in, that I created in my own mind, a brief glimpse of light, and I held on to it. I reached out, held on to it, closed my eyes, and told myself, just believe, start your walk, and you will get out. You gotta believe, and you gotta get out. That's taken 5 years. Now, by telling you this story, I'm not telling you my story is right or wrong. I'm not telling you that your story is wrong, my story is right. I'm not telling you that I'm better than you. I'm not. What I am saying, though, is if you're in this space, if you think that you're just stuck, you don't know the way out, that you feel that you're all alone, and you don't know where to go, my role here is to try and give you that glimmer of light, give you that little bit of courage to say, you can get out. And it's up to you to make that choice. And then I realize as I tell the story to you now, I can metaphorically say that this space here that I'm creating is like a lighthouse, it's like a beacon, because only people that resonate with my story will say, hey, I can get out too. But by putting 5 or 6 different people with all different stories, that's 5 or 6 different glimmers of light, 5 or 6 different examples of courage that can hit different people throughout this entire year. And that's why I do what I do. And that's the why behind my why. So, with that, now that I've taken some time, I'm going to put on the host hat and we'll get the show started. Here's an open question to everyone in the audience. How many of you celebrated Valentine's Day? Let's see a show of hands. Whole bunch of lonely people out there. You might relate to this story then. So I don't connect with Valentine's Day. It's the one celebrated day that everyone does that I just never connected with. And I always thought it was due to the fact that whether I'm in a relationship or not, I just happen to be solo that day. Typically, I'm on a mountain snowboarding somewhere. But I just didn't understand this whole Valentine thing. And then when I was with a girlfriend, I would take care of it, do the atypical, stereotypical thing that you're supposed to do. But this year, when it came around, because I've had a major shift since June 17th of last year, I got to see things really differently this time around. So I woke up on Valentine's Day and I looked at it and it's like, yep, solo again, unless you account for a puppy as a significant other. And if you don't, yep, solo again. And I told myself, I'm going to go up and snowboard today. They had a whole bunch of snow. I'm going to go up and snowboard. So I got geared up and then got ready to go. I was all geared up, ready to go. And then I picked up my phone and I did what most people do, and you check it. And there's text messages from my sister as to, when are you coming over? We got to do all these tax filings. And then when I did that, then emails started popping up on the screen. I started reading the emails. And then I had that moment of indecision. And in that moment, I saw out the corner of my eye, and I call him Little Winston, the little guy that's inside of me, look at me, turn around, and mope away. And you could read the thought bubble. It's like, yeah, you know what, whatever. You're going to flake on me again. And at that one moment, I just decided, forget it. I'm going to leave the phone here, and we're going to go. Grabbed all my gear, and I went. And then I wasn't aware of it on the way up, but things started to shift. And it shifted fast. I got up there, it started fogging up, then the fog went away, the sun came out, I was diving through the trees, I had powder coming up to my thighs, and I could hear him cackle in the back of my mind as we went down the run. We go up again, we went faster and faster, and I could just see the gleam in his eye, and I haven't seen that for a decade. And then I realized how long I've been ignoring him. And then for that one moment, that one instance, last Wednesday, I chose myself. For the first time in, I don't know, most of my adult life, I chose myself, and I got to experience something that I've never experienced before. And I can't even explain to you what that is. So I asked my next speaker, Shenan Charania, to come up to explain what it's like to choose yourself.
My name is Jeevan Bath. Suki Bath has been selling quality pre-owned vehicles for 37 years. All of our vehicles come with a certified inspection report, and history reports are available for all vehicles. All of our sales staff is fully licensed. Visit sukibathmotors.com today.
Foodie World has 75,000 square feet of imported and domestic products, with a large selection dedicated to our Filipino kababayans, with an in-house butcher, variety of seafood, and produce from around the globe. Open every day until midnight. Foodie World, 1 block east of number 3 Road off Sea Island Way in Richmond.
I've already got fans. Thank you. Life is a playground, right? I didn't see this before. I mean, if you look at life, if we cut our skin, it heals automatically with no effort on our part. Our organs work interdependently with each other. Again, no effort on our part, because life is supposed to be effortless and fun and joyful. But to me, it was always seemed like a battleground. So I was born in Kenya, and my parents brought me and my older brother here to Canada when I was the age of 11. And when I got here, I faced a deep culture shock. The system was different, the schools were different, people were different, the country was different. And almost immediately, I faced a lot of bullying that I went through in elementary school. And I didn't know how to react to this, because to me, I liked myself. So I didn't understand why others didn't. And so I was forced to choose everything else but me, because to me, what it looked like was that I wasn't enough. And that's why I was getting bullied. So I faced a lot of bullying from the age of 11 till 13. And by the time I got to high school, it got even worse. And I still didn't understand why nothing was changing. And because I didn't like that environment, I started skipping school. And by this time, it was a battle. Life was not a playground, it was a battleground for me. And as I grew up, more and more, as I left school, I connected with others that were in the same situation as me. So I related to them. And as I related to them, I felt this sense of belonging. So I chose belonging, but I didn't choose myself. Now, by the age of 16, what I didn't realize was that I had so far hidden myself away from myself and the world that I chose everything else on the path to make sure that I continue to feel belong, to make sure that I continue to feel love, everything that I was missing, or I thought so. And before I knew it, I was deeply involved in a world of crime, violence, and gang-related activities. By the time I was 18, my best friend was shot dead. And I fell into a deep depression, not understanding why this was happening. Because I thought I was choosing the right things. I was trying to fit in myself with life. And after I fell into deep depression, the only thing that made sense to me at that point was to numb myself. So I got into a lot of alcohol and drugs. Because that's the only thing that had me live more. It was just about surviving. Being deeply involved in gang-related activities, violence and crime, didn't feel good. It doesn't feel good to anyone. And anyone out there doing it knows that. Now, I didn't see this, but the reason it didn't feel good is because life is supposed to be effortless. It's not supposed to be a struggle. I created my own struggles, and I created my own battlegrounds. And as I went deeper into life, I misunderstood life more and more. It was age 23, I remember getting a phone call one time at 2 a.m. in the morning that my parents' house was shot up, and they were inside. And it struck me because this was getting too close to home. To this day, I still don't know how nobody was injured from that incident. But that moment in time defined the next part of my life. Because at that moment, I started to wake up. It was almost like life was telling me, listen to me, listen to me. But I ignored it because all my life I was used to listening to everything else but myself. After that incident, I started to wake up and change my life. And it took me about 3 or 4 long years to get out of that lifestyle and get into a place where I can actually call my life worth living. And after jumping from job to job here and there, not really feeling like life is fulfilling, I decided to get into business for myself. And at that time, it was 2007. So I chose Tim Hortons to be part of a franchise at Tim Hortons. I started working at Tim Hortons, and I did all the positions at Tim Hortons from the bottom, which was serving coffee, to becoming a baker, did all the midnight shifts, became a supervisor, assistant manager. And then Tim Hortons approved me for my own restaurant. And I opened my own restaurant in 2011, successfully. About a year in, I realized that I did not enjoy it at all. And I still didn't misunderstand life. Still didn't understand life. And what my realization was that I still hadn't chosen myself. I had chosen money, I had chosen insecurity, and I had chosen a life that seemingly would fit well. I was just basically changing the content of my life and decorating my outside and not visiting myself inside. And a year into that business, I found myself back into alcohol, working 16 to 20-hour days at Timmy's and going home and drinking it away, surviving. After that realization, I paused and I finally said to myself, maybe I don't understand how life works. And when I said that to myself, that's when my shift started to happen. Because then I was forced to choose myself. Now, I struggled a lot. It was still a battleground for me. I struggled every day to keep up to what I was not aligned to. And after a lot of courage that I had to develop, after a lot of mental and emotional courage, I decided to get out of that business, which was really hard to do. But I got out of that business not knowing what I was going to do next. Absolutely no plan. And about a year later, I realized that what I'm in love with is to help people. Because after I got out of that business, I hired a coach. And with that coaching, I was able to see that all the things I was choosing was either out of insecurity, either out of choosing my beliefs, choosing my doubts, choosing my fears. And he asked me a question. He said, in our coaching sessions, I used to show up to the coaching sessions and talk about how my life sucked. Every session. And he told me, you've told me everything you don't like about life. Can you tell me one thing that you do, please? And I thought about it for a second, and I realized that I really loved helping people. And I felt that it came naturally to me. And I thought it was me, but I realized that that is life. We are altruistic, born. Life is effortless by design. So I chose myself by giving up that business and not knowing what to do next. And about a year later, I decided that I wanted to be a coach. And the sole reason I wanted to be a coach was I wanted to help others choose themselves before it was too late. In my life, I'm really lucky to end up where I am, to avoid jail, to avoid death. Many of my friends did not avoid those two. And I consider it a real privilege right now that I get to be part of other people's lives when I can just point them back to themselves so they can choose themselves and wake up their creative potential within them. And this is what I call living a life that is a playground, not a battleground. Now these days I'm doing that for a living, but I'm still learning. I'm still learning to trust myself. I still fall away into my old thinking, but I keep nudging myself over and making sure that I'm choosing myself. Because I've realized that when you choose yourself, you're actually choosing everyone else as well. Because when you're aligned with your own values, you show up more powerfully and more respectfully to life and to everyone in your life. So if I was to leave you with one thing tonight, it would be just one sentence. Choose yourself. Because you don't know what the magic holds behind life after you choose yourself. And I'll leave you with one question as well. In reflection, what area of your life are you living in where you're not choosing yourself? Thank you.
Shenan Charania. And I realized I let my past define me. And it took me a long time, and I still haven't made that disconnect. But I believe my next speaker, Wendy Foster, has, and I invite her to the stage to share her story.
Oh, wow, that's a bright light. That's still a bright light. Hello, everybody. My past does not define me. We heard tonight a lot of stories about being invisible, not being seen, not being heard, being crushed, not only physically, but emotionally, physically. We've heard about being going against our own values for the love of somebody else. I think inside of us, we all have a little bit of pain, and some of us more than others. Even tonight, as I was coming down here, walking down the street, I saw a man sitting on the street. He had a long hair and a long gray beard. He was bundled up in his sleeping bag. He had a cigarette hanging from his mouth. And he looked cold, and he was talking away. He looked actually quite happy in his little world. And I couldn't help but think, that could be me. When we look at people, we have sometimes an instant judgment that we're not even aware of. Like, oh, he's homeless. Oh, he's a bum. Maybe he's a drunk. And we're not even aware that we say these things and think these things about people around us. And there's so many things, Paul said it tonight, that there are invisible in us. And for me, one of those things is a mental health issue, more than one. And one of the things that brought me up here is that I really need to tell my story, because it's not just my story. And there are people who cannot share the pain that they have inside, and they suffer silently. If you look around at your table right now, there's about 4 or 5 of you at a table. Statistically, 1 in 5 people will suffer mental health issues in their lifetime. So if you look around at your table, one of you right now has something going on. Maybe you've shared it, maybe you haven't. But unfortunately, there's a lot more people that haven't reported anything, and they're terrified to do so. Sometimes when I share my story, women will come up to me in tears.
Models are on display at Freeway Mazda. New Mazda sedans, crossovers, and SUVs surround the facility, and fully loaded versions occupy the floor of the showroom. At Freeway Mazda, 154th Street and 104 Avenue in Surrey.
Kingsway Sushi is an all-you-can-eat restaurant with a large selection of Japanese and other Asian cuisine. The restaurant is located 5 minutes from Metrotown Centre on the Vancouver side of Boundary and Kingsway.